Like Robin says, if you want to be badass, you got to do badass things. And like Jason at the Gamble Farm Inn said, you guys are damn stupid. This adventure started with the Ozman dropping them off at the New York-Pennsylvania state line, where they'll pick up the Eastern Divide mountain bike trail and follow it to the bottom of Pennsylvania. The trip started this year with an 80-mile slog through non-stop, unrelenting rain.
Beautiful day for a ride. Gorgeous.
Robin concocted the idea to push straight through to Jersey Shore, Pennsylvania, as opposed to setting up camp during a storm in a flooded campsite. They climbed for about 22 miles and then hit some cool leaf-covered single track. About 6+ creek crossings later, the trail dumped onto the Pine Creek Gorge. Here they spun in the same ring for 60 miles, all while immersed among stunning East Coast fall foliage. Orange, yellow, red, green, stacked upon each other as far as the eye could see. The two were starving and planned on getting dinner and coffee at mile 55. They couldn't wait to get to Wolf's Deli for a sandwich and maybe even warm soup. Both began to daydream about what's for dinner, creating that carrot to get them through this wet and cold decision. Remember, Robin is a pro, so he threw out into the ether, if for some reason the store were to be closed, plan B is just to bust out the cook kit and brew our own coffee and then whip up some oatmeal packets. Whatever, that store better not be closed. But him devising a plan B turned out to be vital, because yeah, you guessed it, it was closed. Instead of the dinner situation being a crushing disappointment, the dude shifted the most important gear. They then pulled out the cook kit and got down to business. Bike packing rule 4080. Don't expect any oasis to be open or even exist at all. Be prepared to quickly adapt sans negativity. Cold, very, very wet, and another 25 miles to go is today's endgame. And for these guys, this was going to be fun. The oatmeal plus the La Colombe coffee warmed them up and gave them the calories they so desperately needed. Both then donned headphones, nodded to each other, and took off into the inching darkness. They never stopped until the town of Jersey Shore. The tavern closed at 9, and they rolled in like wet rats at 9:05. Jason, the cook, after calling them stupid, graciously turned the grill back on and whipped up a pizza for their soggy asses. Day 1 in the books. Hells yeah.
Being a fan of all things sports, I noticed the number 4 signs everywhere. I asked the bartender what it was all about, and the mood quickly turned somber. Number 4 is Max Engel, a 17-year-old football player from Jersey Shore High School. He collapsed on the field during a game and later died. This happened about a month before we came through town, and I could see the pain in Jason's eyes as he told us the story. In the many small towns throughout PA, you watch your friends and neighbors' children grow up. You see them work hard and dream big, and a loss like this must be devastating. To the family of Max Engel and the people of Jersey Shore, and I just want to say, may you rest in peace, Max, number 4.
Weather continued to hammer the riders with on and off rain, causing the dampness to grate on them figuratively and literally. It's only day 2, but the guys are getting their asses handed to them. Whether it was the 4,500 feet of climbing during today's 36 miles, or being max loaded with food and water, or yesterday's 80 miles, it was Sean who had to start the mental battle faster than intended. He didn't take into account his new bike drivetrain gear ratio. The punchy, steepest parts of the climbs, he just couldn't get up a lot of them. So he ended up walking the crest, pushing the bike more than preferred. Is this how it's going to be? Relegated to pushing the bike along these forest hills? No different than if it was some gigantic rolling luggage bag at an airport? Before dusk hit, the duo pulled up to the RB Winter State Park. The cordial camp host drove 4 bundles of wood to their campsite. They set up tents, changed into dry gear, cooked Indian food mixed with tortillas, then topped it off with the Mike and Ikes that were shaking on Sean's bike all day. They dried their gear by the fire and philosophized about bike packing. Things like the struggles and the flip side of overcoming troubles, which is elation and growth. The scenery and wildlife, bald eagles, hawks, deer, porcupine, black bear, largest salamander ever, and the tiniest snake ever. The consequences of decisions made in advance and during the ride. Also, how one mentally handles those consequences when they are detrimental to the efficiency and or the fun of the trip. That's where Sean stood right now. Whether he didn't dial in the bike enough or didn't train well enough for these steeps, it didn't matter. It was time to get back in the zone. At the end of the day, that's the zeitgeist. Challenges are what bike packers sign up for. They see this fact and raise it to, I can't wait for the next challenge this trip throws at me. It's the mindset that works for bike packing, and it's the mindset that helps in life as well. So the recovery plan for tonight will be water, rest, Advil, stretching, tea tree oil. That's a healthy plan for the break-in period of the trip. Up next, we see what tomorrow brings.
All right, what was your name?
Joe, Tavani.
Hey, nice to meet you, man. So what race is this?
Iron Cross.
And is that a gravel grind or a mountain bike or?
It's a combination of all of that. It used to be, before there was gravel, it was the longest cyclocross race in the U.S. So, but since gravel, yeah,
wow,
it's become very much a gravel race. Although there is some single track involved. There's two large sections that we have.
How many miles is it?
This year it's 70 miles due to a bridge being out, but usually right around 100K.
And how long have you been doing this race?
20 years.
What's the best part about mountain bike in Pennsylvania?
The rocks. Absolutely the rocks.
Bills, dude. They got into the playoffs, wild card, killed the freaking Marlins, took down the Braves, who were like the best team in baseball. Totally clobbered them with our bats. Sad we're going to miss the Diamondback series, but I'm assuming we're going to beat them, and then when I get back, we'll be in the World Series, man. This year, they started out, they're 5-0. I don't know if they beat the Jets yesterday or not, but they're 5-0, and I mean, they're looking pretty freaking good, but they're not like dominating like last year. Jalen Hurts is killing it. We got great receivers, the best offensive line in football, great running backs, great coaching. This has got to be the year, you know? So a lot of times what they do is they defect. So they'll like leave Cuba by boat, you know, some fucking rafts, get to the U.S., sign a deal, and become, you know, 300 millionaires.
Wow.
Oh, dude, do you know anything about downhill skiing, like women's downhill skiing? You into that at all? You like MMA, Robin? You ever watch MMA? There's a guy from our town, media, Joe Piper. Still, fun to watch, dude. You should try it out. So it's really interesting stuff.
Pennsylvania has serendipitously created a gravel grind paradise. The roads through Bald Eagle State Forest are, well, they're gravel, but more importantly, highly compacted fine gravel. Flattened by many a pickup truck over many a year, the creation is a Le Mans raceway for bikes. Green ferns line the side of the trails and wave in the wind like the rabid fans at the top of Alpe d'Huez. Overall, the hills were gentler and they revealed some really killer descents. Both riders leaned over into their drops like cafe racers and then dipped even further over their handlebars into the arrows like X-Wing fighters. Sean game planned for his aspirational gearing today by going slow and steady up the hills. As the grades increased at the crest, he would hop off the bike and intently hike the 650C luggage carrier up over the top and hop right back on, figuring, if I can't ride every mile, then I will cyclo bike pack across this damn state. After coffee at a beautiful overlook, it was time to find a place to break camp. They came across a chalet called Seven Mountain Winery and asked if they could camp in their large, flat expanse of a yard.
So, what's the name of this place?
Seven Mountains Wine Cellars.
And your name is?
My name is Tracy.
How long have you been here?
14 years. We opened in
Nice.
2009.
And you've said you've had other bikers here before as well?
Yeah, this area is really big for mountain bike racing. So there's a lot of events, and we're generally a stop at the end for some snacks and beverages for those folks as well.
I'd say.
But we get a lot of cyclists just passing through too.
That
We're
is
always
true.
amazed at the stamina.
Why are you letting us stay here?
People need to be kind these days, right? Anything that we can do to help somebody out, and what you guys is doing is pretty pretty awesome. So if we can give you a place to sleep for the night and stay dry and make some people happy,
Thank you.
we're happy to do it.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
One more question.
The bartender was more than happy to oblige, and even better, this place had everything. Fire pit, wood, beers, homemade root beer, snacks, and even a small pavilion to sit under while it drizzled. When living off a bike, you usually pray for a picnic table to sit at. This place has 20 tables.
Worked there for 35 years, had just that one job my entire working career. And fortunately for us, for 33 of those 35 years, I was an amateur winemaker. And we figured it out how to make pretty good wine. And then New Holland announced they were closing our plant. So we took our hobby to the next level, and here we are.
Yes, you did.
15 years in.
This is Scott, the owner of Seven Mountains Winery, by the way.
Cabernet Franc. It's a very active fermentation. Skins are being forced to the top by all the CO2 that's being produced. The CO2 pushes all these skins to the top. But our objective is to get as much color out of these skins as possible. These skins that are up on the top, we're not extracting any color out of those at all because they're not in contact with the juice. So at least 4 times a day, take this punch down tool and we push them back down in. And our goal is to invert that cap. Get everything that was up on top back down in. As this fermentation gets near the end, where our sugar level gets down to almost 0, but not quite, the whole thing will get pumped into a press. And we'll press the wine out and separate, get rid of the skins. One guy takes a case of empty bottles here, dumps them upside down onto this table, and then feeds the bottles onto the trap. So when the bottle gets here, it's going to hit this straight part, and it's going to hold the bottle there momentarily. This thing plunges down, it fills the bottle full of nitrogen. So when the bottles make it in here and they're being filled, we're not adding a bunch of oxygen to the wine. It fills 11 bottles at a time. The bottle will make its way over here. Comes under here, it can either pick up a screw cap, or we can move this aside, push it back that way, and then we have a corking head out that'll come out front, and it can push a cork in. It'll come over here. If it has a cork, it'll pick up a capsule. The capsule will be spun on here, and then when it gets to this station, it puts the label on. When it comes out on that table, it's ready to go to retail. And we can run the entire machine with 2 people.
Wow. And this is all family?
It's all family, yes.
How many you
We
said?
have one assistant winemaker who's not a part of our family, but the rest of us are all family. So counting the assistant winemaker, there's 5 families that live off of this winery. We have 6 governor's cups up on the wall. We just won our 2nd Keystone Cup. So that's pretty good.
You said the New Holland plant closed down?
Yep, they announced in 2006 that they were going to close. So I had a little bit of time from 2006 until 2008. We did a lot of research, and we saw how other people did it. We asked a lot of questions, got a lot of good answers, and we were already amateurs.
That's right.
We were taking the step from amateur level to commercial,
Yeah.
professional.
It's just it's an inspirational story.
Yeah,
it really
so
is.
It turned out, what they say, when a door closes, there's always an open window.
There you go. Sometimes it's an escape hatch.
Yeah.
It was a bike packer heaven and a gravel grinder paradise. The dudes dozed off to the soundtrack of the Phillies game playing over the snapping of the smoldering campfire. Bike packing is the ultimate adventure, and every bit of the struggle so far has been worth it after today.
Off the scoreboard in right. A Schwarball, no doubt about it. Kyle Schwarber, first pitch of the game with the Rockets are right. No doubters, here's Bryce Harper. The pitch. Swing and high fly ball drilled right center field. Way back. Gone! Bryce Harper, a solo homer in the
So far, the dudes are playing this route like a Stradivarius. See, the route is not planned out per se. They know where they want to stop, Hancock, Maryland, and they know the rendezvous is Saturday. Other than that, it's all a complex equation of miles plus physical condition divided by campsite location plus resupply stores minus setup breakdown time minus daylight hours equals bike packing. Part of the fun is all the variables involved in making correct decisions. Big things like, okay, there's a state park 33 miles away, or there's a primitive camping 42 miles away, which would set up the next day to only go 30 miles and hit a town for a re-up. Which then leads to, well, the state park would have wood available, but the primitive, we'd have to go forage. So we have to get to the primitive early while still light, etc., etc., etc. There are many small decisions too, like don't toss that Mike and Ike's box, it'll be good for fire starters later. Or, since we ran out of the stove fuel, let's grab some sort of food and take it with us. Oh yeah, people, in the spirit of our homie Dave Fox, the dudes did some hoagie packing. Robin and Sean both grabbed some huge Italian hoagies and asked them to be travel wrapped. They industriously bungeed those bad boys to their bikes using found sticks as hoagie supports. Then they rode off into the wilderness, and they went up, and they went down, and they went up, and they went down, ultimately landing at a small primitive nook. Ending earlier than usual, it allowed them to switch things up by doing a hike. They found a small pond and a babbling brook, and stopped to take in the sounds and colors of nature. Then it was back to the camp for chill time round a fire, and chill they did upon moss-covered sitting rocks. Ceremoniously, they busted out their hoagies and feasted to make a perfect end to another sublime day in the PA woods. dudes awoke from their nook in the woods and sped off. Yesterday's shorter riding day allowed some time for recovery. The past 2 nights of yoga by the fire has them feeling loose, and they are hella hydrated. The terrain was real varied today, complete with those utopian gravel roads, slow pitched ascents, long descents, scenic paved roads with nary a car, and the towns of Petersburg and Huntington. Everything was perfect, and both guys were very excited to be heading to Raystown Lake. This is a place they have been many times and is known for its clean and super flowy trails. This time, though, the riding will be on the other side. The other side of the lake is a trail that Sean and Robin have always wanted to hit and have long heard of a primitive campsite over there. They were psyched and feeling strong, stronger than they have the whole ride. Everything was going great as they turned onto the long-awaited Terrace Mountain Trail in search of the fabled lean-to primitive campsite. Now the terrain was leaves upon leaves upon leaves, and below the leaves were rocks. An added challenge were the multiple downed trees blocking the path. These fallen trees forced the ride into an upper body workout, since now they had to lift their loaded bikes over all these literal hurdles. It was awesome, but starting to get real tough. The constant tree overs and stumbling on rocks and sticks was annoying as hell. The damn lean-to shelter was the carrot, but the sun was going down fast. When they got to the area where they thought the lean-to was, it was too dark to see, and they were forced to find some flat ground so they could break camp. Hangrily and quietly, they set up their tents and sleeping bags, and they changed and made dinner. The dudes got whooped there at the end, but that happens sometimes when you bike pack, and life. It's all how you react to it. The day was great, and the Terrace Mountain Trail is sick. They have 20 more miles of it to go in the morning. Both can't wait to complete the trail and add it to their biking resumes. In the meantime, despite not having a fire, the dudes were happy just sitting there staring at the light of the Raystown Marina from the other side. Bike packing is a dirty game, and no shower night after night of the camping is kind of part of the fun. Since they got caught in the dark last night without finding the lean-to shelter, which ended up being 50 yards down the trail from where they had stopped, the dudes plan to get as many miles in as possible without knowing where they may stop. No expectations, because expectations in bike packing lead to mind-crushing disappointments. The more miles today, the less they will have tomorrow in the predicted rainstorm. So both were looking forward to another night in the woods without a shower. Days like this are when you really feel like you could just settle in and bike pack forever. You know, just ride the earth. Just ride. Literally moving forward constantly. Experiencing constantly. Never really knowing what's ahead, but actually knowing exactly what's up ahead. Another challenge, another hill, another grind. But with every hill climb, there's a badass long winding downhill. Some of which are absolute screamers. Using everything you got to get over the top is worth it, within seconds once the downhill begins. Then you get to the bottom and cruise through a small town or a state park or a scenic section of flat ground until you begin the ascent back into the hills to repeat the cycle. In cycling, one definitely makes payments in advance of each downhill. So far, it's averaging almost 100 feet of climb per mile, which is crazy because the Great Divide was 70 feet per mile. This is pretty burly, but it's completely worth it due to the speedy downhills and the stunning scenery. Despite a few super steep sections today, the climbs are really manageable. They didn't know where they were going to end up, and due to the dark rolling in and only private property around them, they ended up at a hotel in Breezewood. Instead of another night in their own filth, one by one they succumbed and got into showers. After that, the dudes rolled down to the hot tub blasting The Stopper by Cuddy Ranks. When bikepacking, you just never really know where you will be at the end of the day. Last day, and after 5 to 6 days of bike packing in a row, you really just start thinking that you could do this for a job. You know, just ride the earth. The pay is the visceral lifestyle, and the office is the woods. The bosses, the mileage and elevation. Your home, the infinite variables and possibilities of living feral and free. The only rule of this office with huge windows is just to keep going. Sean has adapted to the gearing ratio just in time for the last day. The last day is the lightest day physically and mentally. It is the day with the least amount of planning, which really unfetters bike packers in a way no other day can allow. You can eat what's left in the bike bags and drink water without having to monitor intake, which in turn lightens the load. The mind is lighter knowing that you only have 40 miles to go, which effectively stops the math class in your head by turning it into a creative writing course. The terrain is the paper, and the bikes are the pen, which are about to cross out another state. It was supposed to rain all day, but when pulling out from the hotel, it was still dry, which was a treat. They started by heading over to the first highlight of the day, the abandoned PA Turnpike. The old highway was now a broken asphalt path covered with graffiti everywhere. All types of images, all types of sayings, and all types of penises. There were scribblings as well as near works of art, but mostly just rudimentary, quickly sprayed out dick and balls. It has to be the most ubiquitous graffiti in the world. For some silly reason, the penis. We rode this path for a few miles until a rather large schlong pointed towards the dark tunnel. This was an abandoned turnpike tunnel, and it may have been a mile long. Coated with graffiti and littered with spray paint cans, the dudes rolled through slowly in order to appreciate the canvas of what looked like the work of a bunch of demented sixth graders. One last dong greeted them on the other side and pointed them away from the tunnel in case they lost their way. Thanks, penises. Next, they climbed up to the last mountain range of PA. They grinded slowly up to the ridge and came across the scenic view. The scenic view was relegated to just being a massive cloud of encroaching fog. a scene to behold. This large rain cloud creeping slowly to the 2,000-foot perch. Eventually, the mist was felt against their faces, and they decided to don their rain gear and head on the way. As they rode along the ridge of the range, the cloud eventually enveloped them. It was one of the coolest riding experiences ever. They could see about 20 feet in any direction, and everything was moist. You could hear rain hitting the leaves, but couldn't see any drops. You could hear rain landing on their rain gear, but the gear didn't even look wet. The ground was wet, but not muddy. There was no water draining down the side of the trail, and man, was it humid. It was then they figured it out. They were in the cloud. The dudes were cloud riding. Instead of wondering about the incoming rain, they were the incoming rain. They were in the cloud that was dumping rain below. This can't be scripted or planned. It simply cannot be contrived. It is the miracle of timing, and it only happens by putting yourself out there into the elements. It was wondrous, and it lasted approximately 20 miles until they blazed down the other side of the range. Just like that, the cloud and moisture was behind them, and the other side of the range was sunny, which certainly matched their dispositions. They rolled up and down freshly paved country roads, and as opposed to the 20 feet of vision they had before, they could now see the rolling grass hills and old farm buildings in the distance. The roads had almost no cars, and momentum kept them going up and down the hills. They moved along in the perfect pedal stroke and began to lose track of anything else except for the sound of the sweet, sweet feeling of propulsion. Hold this moment. Keep it going. Stay in the zone. Complete frontal cortex usage. Flow state. Staying in this zone for miles and miles until stopping to make the last coffee. Stalling to make it last as long as possible. They both just didn't want this to end. It is so much fun out there in Penn's Woods. They drank their La Colombe coffee on the side of the trail like the cafe on wheels they are. After that, it was off into some rain for the 11-mile home stretch. Both were seriously thinking about camping as opposed to another hotel, but this rain has them thinking about some dry comfort. The rain came down harder and really soaked them as they drew closer and closer to the Maryland state line. Man, they didn't want this to end, and if it wasn't for the rain, they'd be looking up campgrounds. But the rain proceeded to come down steadier as they closed in on Hancock until they eventually arrived at the hotel and just stared at each other in the parking lot, not wanting to even go in and succumb to the comfort and warmth. When bike packing, you carry all kinds of gear with you. So much gear that the thought of not using it, especially a second night in a row, is just disappointing. So these guys, despite being filthy wet, tired, and kicked in, they decided to ride further and camp out in the rain, because yeah, that's bike packing. They took off for a 7-mile ride in the dark to a family campground. The route took them on a western Maryland trail, which was safe and smooth and was a reminder of day one when grinding into Jersey Shore through the wet darkness. Upon arrival at Hidden Hills Campground, everything was done up for Halloween, which allowed Robin and Sean to get their finish photo under a Happy Halloween arch by a family waiting to get on a hayride. The campers went all out, and the spooky sights were everywhere.
Look at this, man. You do this. You go to a different campsite every year to do this?
This is what my wife's Halloween 24/7.
Really?
That boat bow that we built that 1st of May.
You built.
We built like this bow right here for the boat. We actually built that in May.
Holy crap! And you did all this. You and your
well,
wife.
my wife and I do all that. She does most of it. I'm just a worker. Name's Nicole Shipley. She does all that, and
She built this?
yeah, that's I don't know where she found the mermaid skeleton.
Robin started the last fire, and they ate the last of their snacks. They clowned on each other while reminiscing about their latest finished adventure, the Tour de PA.
PA was a great bikepacking adventure that is recommended to everyone. Our hometown state of Pennsylvania did not disappoint, and it's nice to know that the East Coast has something to say when it comes to bikepacking. See you soon, preferably on a bike.
Welcome to Cafe Rabe. It's a beautiful spot here in Pennsylvania. What made you pick this quaint spot for your operation?
I found it.
Nice. How'd you find it?
Riding bikes.
Why do you ride bikes?
I don't have a lot else going for me.
Look at these crazy motherfuckers. Booyaka, booyaka.
Sports ball, sports ball, sports ball.
All of our reds set and aged for 1 full year. So the reds that I show you, that 600 cast off that we got for the juice is still pretty white.
Yep.
It's going to be, from the time we got that in today, so that goes into a bottle in 2 years.
One more question. Steelers or Eagles?
Steelers.
Thank you. Cafe Rabe, day 7. Rabe, tell me about your coffee experience here.
It's not bad. We've had a couple of spots that are a little more exclusive, like the doorway with poop and spiders.
Yeah, I remember that one.
This one's got a much better view.
Yeah.